All right. It's never been easier to create, but it's also never been easier to consume. So we live in this modern day society where it's so heavily technology. What's the best way to say it? There's so much technology in our modern society. Much of this technology makes our lives probably far easier than past generations. And there's probably more content out there to consume than ever before. There's maybe to some degree more pleasures out there to have indulged than ever before. And let's just use pleasures like a general term, not something that's specifically a positive or a negative thing right here. So we could talk about like the more positive side of the pleasures, whether it's, just having leisure time or taking a vacation on some tropical island, or whether it's eating a good meal. And then there's like the other side of it where people are like, getting strung out on drugs and stuff like that, right? And other stuff and there's lots of bad stuff out there too. It's a crazy world. And there's some good stuff out there. But even just look at social media and YouTube and stuff like that, just the internet in general. You're on YouTube, you could probably just consume a bunch of stuff perpetually. You're on TikTok, you could probably scroll perpetually. There's so much stuff, and nowadays, as you've probably heard the term slop, there's so much slop out there too. So much stuff that can take up your time. And so, with there being so much noise, so much distraction, just so much stuff, it's fair to say, it's never been easier. With the technology available and with the internet, with the decreased upfront cost of making things, so filming something and putting it on YouTube is really as easy as just having a phone or a camera of some kind, filming something, then uploading that to YouTube, right? And as long as you have an internet connection, there's not a lot of upfront cost to doing that. And nowadays, because we shoot digitally, usually, not on film, it's cheaper than ever, probably, to do this process of creating stuff. Whether it's creating content like this, whether it's just drawing, painting, whatever it is. Sure, there's some things that are probably still quite expensive to create, but there's a lot of stuff generally like this right here, which is quite cheap to create in terms of what cost goes into it. So all this tech probably made it easier to create than ever before, but there's so much noise, so much stuff, that it's probably never been easier to consume all this stuff. And so nowadays it's kind of like you have to be vigilant to do things. There's so much probably to unpack with this concept, where it's like you living in society nowadays, there's so much stuff you could be doing, and there's so much stuff that could very easily take your attention. Like the fast food state of society, where you could so easily have the dopamine hit from whatever stuff. And then as a result of all these quick highs, these quick fixes, do you ever really, how likely are people to actually devote themselves to honing in a skill, developing actual art? You could say the air quotes, because what is actual art nowadays? What is real art? It's kind of like a vague term maybe, or something that people could debate. What is real art, But regardless, let's say for the sake of the conversation, real art is something that takes some level of human involvement to make something interesting, I guess you could say. And so it's almost think about it like this. If it's so easy to just get a dopamine hit from scrolling TikTok or whatever, then why would some people maybe ever learn a hobby, like, learning how to paint or whatever, because for some people they might get enjoyment out of painting, out of whatever kind of hobby, art form, etc. But if you could just kind of get that dopamine trigger hit by like just scrolling TikTok or whatever, get all these quick fixes, are there some people that are not getting into learning a new thing or a new hobby or whatever because they're being distracted so much before they ever had a chance to learn a new thing? Maybe. I don't know. Like, you could guess what the amount of people that would be affected by that. Probably something that's definitely fair to say is that you have to be probably more intentional now to rip yourself away from all the noise and the distraction to actually spend time learning something and creating something that's more meaningful to you or those around you than in the past. Because in the past, when there was so much less distractions, like go back 100 years ago when there's just like less distractions, if you had something that you were passionate about doing, it's not that there's never been a time period where there's been no distraction, but there's probably just been less distraction in the past before we have this crazy technologically advanced, that's the word I should have used earlier, technologically advanced, overstimulating, commonplace society stuff. And so in the past, maybe it would be easier for people to just do the thing, right? Because it's like you got to start doing, like, and this is stuff like you could sum it up where like a lot of things are really just steps, like step 1, step 2, step 3. A lot of things are just steps, right? And so you just kind of got to do the steps. You just kind of got to do the steps. And like there's a whole lot of other factors that go into how easy it is for somebody to just do the steps or not. Like, how fatigued are you on a regular basis? Are you really tired after work? And so you just want to turn off your brain and just kind of like do something mindless or just escape reality for a little bit. And the more commonplace this becomes, it might make you think, wow, this is like a sad state of affairs if all people just want to do is just like escape all the time. Like, if you always want to escape your life, then what is the state of your life, And it's not that everything in life, regardless, is always going to be like happy and just peachy, not that everything's always just going to be lovely all the time, but like maybe there's a deeper root here of maybe there's changes that you should make in your life to try to make it better, right? And so what's the good way to sum this up? Being a consumer versus being a creator of stuff, you could say, does it matter whether you create or consume? If everyone just consumes and no one creates, then eventually there would be no new things, potentially. Is that fair to say? And if everybody creates and no one consumes, then no one is able to like make a living creating things. So there kind of needs to be this balance or cycle between some people making things and some people consuming things, or at least everybody shares the roles with each other in the creating and consuming. Like this guy makes this thing that's consumed by this guy, and this guy makes this thing which is consumed by that guy. And so then like whether it's like a product, service, art, whatever, like both ends of both sides have to kind of be met on some level with like, I guess, supply and demand. I don't know if that's the best way to rope in that concept here, but you could ask yourself, like, does it matter to create things, to create stuff, like to do things? Because if everybody just kind of checks out of life and does nothing but go to work and pay bills, is that really living? Like, is that living like we're supposed to be living, right? Like, what does it mean to really live? To live a full life, to live how you're supposed to, how you're supposed to live. Like, what are you supposed to be doing, right? So, yeah, never been easier to create, but it's also never been easier to consume. So if you want to be someone who creates things, whether it's art, whether it's product, business, whatever the thing is, if you have a calling on your life to create something, then maybe you just have to kind of be intentional to make the time to do the thing, to actually do the steps, and that might require restructuring some things in your life, building habits. Like, I am definitely not perfect at this. Like, it's sometimes it might just be a real struggle, just because you might just be so fatigued and tired from stuff that it's like, oh man, just the idea of like getting up and going and doing the thing. Oh, so like, fair enough. But at the end of the day, if you never do it, it'll never get done, right? Whatever the thing is. So do good stuff, create good stuff, consume good stuff, and live how you're supposed to live. All right? So I'm going to leave that there. Have a good day.